Hi, thanks for joining me. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the wall feature recognition enhancements that are now included as part of ESPRIT TNG Release 3.1. With ESPRIT Release 3.1, you'll notice that there's significantly increased feature intelligence with the wall feature recognition. Both top and bottom blends are recognized, whether those be fillets or chamfers. And we've also eliminated cases where loops were created. Now, those cases where perhaps there was more than one path for the wall feature recognition to take, and it got confused. Well, now it's much smarter and it knows exactly what to do. Here's an example of bottom blends. So this was the face input inside of a ESPRIT TNG, and prior to release 3.1, you would get this. You'll notice that there is no bottom blend type. There is just a top blend type. And once we switch to a ESPRIT TNG, you'll see that there is both a top and a bottom blend type. Here's an example where we had multiple possible paths. And so here you can see that we can actually go either above the shelf or below the shelf. So this was my face input. And this is what I would actually get inside of a ESPRIT TNG prior to release 3.1. Okay, let's go ahead and switch to ESPRIT. This particular file is actually a continuation of a file that I started originally in the CAD data exchange update, starting files and UI update video. And then I continued it with the mating, digitization of work offsets, and snap video. In this particular case, I actually have two features that have been created. These two features were created in a build before ESPRIT Release 3.1, and you can see that they're problem features. In this particular case, we got the loops that I was talking about during the presentation, and that's because we had more than one path. And then if we flip the part around and look at the feature here, specifically if we look at the properties of the feature, you can see it's not detecting the bottom blend type, because this bottom blend type actually didn't even previously exist prior to release 3.1. Let's delete both of these bad features and show you the behavior inside of ESPRIT 3.1. So first thing I will do is I'll go ahead and select my faces here, get these last two, and then I will go to the feature ribbon and we will run wall feature recognition. Once the feature is created, let's look specifically at the properties, and you'll notice that not only does it detect the bottom blend type of fillet, but it also is telling me what the radius of that fillet happens to be. Very cool. Let's flip the part around and twist it this way, and let's select some faces here. So I'll select this face, this face. Oh, and I must not have the correct, I'll do it old school here. Select the faces. I must not have the proper propagation. In this case, it's just faster to select them rather than to go and try to turn on the propagation. All right, so now I have my two faces, or excuse me, my multiple faces selected, but my two paths. All right, and then we will run the wall feature recognition on this, and you can see that it properly identifies the wall, and it also, because it's ducking into this little shelf here, it knows to stop the feature right here. So this is the feature depth. Now, I can actually show you a couple more things. This is not really related to wall feature recognition, but a couple things that were included in past releases of ESPRIT that I think are pretty cool. So I'm going to go ahead and select this particular wall feature, and I'm going to apply operation to this. Specifically, I'm going to apply, let's say, the contouring. Okay, and then I'll go ahead and choose my tool, so we can choose perhaps my 10mm end mill. I'm going to turn on use speeds and feeds, and then I'm going to choose my particular cut type. So in this case, let's say it's end mill rough, and you can see that it automatically reads in my feeds and speeds because prior to this, I actually set my feeds and speeds set to the new ESPRIT feeds and speeds database that's included as part of our starting files, and I had that set up on my workpiece, on my part. Let's look here. The next thing I want to talk about is the stock automation. So we're going to go set that to yes. And when I do that, you'll notice that a couple things disappear. So let's set it back to no here, and you'll see them appear again. You'll notice that I no longer have the starting depth. Okay, starting depth disappears because it can automatically detect that for you, along with the number of passes also disappears. So I'm actually going to use the stock, and it's going to intelligently know how much material is left, and it's going to produce that number of passes. Let me go ahead and click OK. And you can see it creates my tool path. Pretty cool. Now, one thing you'll notice here, it's of course because of my depth of that shelf that's not going down all the way to the floor. Now, another cool trick, and this is not something that's new for this particular release, it's been around for a while, but sometimes because we are releasing so much new functionality, people tend to forget, or maybe they didn't know about it in the first place, is you actually have the ability of selecting the sub-elements of a feature. And now that I have those elements selected, I can just simply hit delete, and you can see it deletes those sub-elements from the feature, connecting the rest of the feature together. Okay. And here, I want to be able to update my toolpath, so I'm going to reopen my operation page. And here for my depth, of course, my total depth isn't correct anymore. It's still finding the total depth from the feature, but now I can go all the way down to this floor. So what I can do is this. So let me go ahead and select here. And if I zoom in, remember that I don't actually have any wireframe geometry here. But I can pick up on the snap point directly off of that solid edge. It will then read in the value, and I can click OK. And then it updates the toolpath. So now that I am cutting all the way down to this particular floor. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you enjoy the new enhancements that you're getting with ESPRIT TNG Release 3.1. Thanks for joining. Talk to you soon.